So, Vinyl Community, I'm back to do sort of a book review of sorts, and this is not a book per se. This is an artifact that managed to tick off every single one of my favorite interests in this world, and that is documentary films, books, and obviously music. And we're not talking about any other sort of documentary film out there. We're talking about one of the most iconic jazz documentaries ever recorded. A film that any sort of jazz buff should have seen at least once in their life. And I think that if you are going to compare it to something, it is the equivalent for jazz fans as Woodstock, the movie Woodstock, would be for rockers. So what am I talking about here? Well, it's this one, and you've probably seen it from the title up in the descriptions, sort of. But this is Jazz on a Summer's Day, the 10-inch documentary CD book version, the deluxe book version. I'm going to talk about this and review it right after the sort of intro. Yeah, well, this is still in print as of today, so if you follow the links below, you can buy one for yourself. They are still pretty affordable if you ask me when it comes to the sort of what you get, in this case, LP, CD, DVD, and a book. It's a no-brainer. So, me and my family, we went on vacation to an island here in Sweden called Gotland, and I managed to find this book. I had no idea about they done a deluxe version of this one, but I have seen the documentary Jazz on a Summer's Day, so I knew about it. And with the sort of the hype sticker, it announced that this is the deluxe version. You get LPs, you get the book, you get CD, and the documentary on a DVD. And I was delighted. I started to read the book part. It's a 44 pages long book, so I read that through the vacation, and I wanted to do the review right away when I came home and saw the documentary. So let's start with the film. The film was shot in 1959, and this is a pretty intense year for jazz if you know your sort of your jazz history. This is the year where Ornette Coleman came out with his In the Shape of Jazz to Come, and you have A Kind of Blue. It's directed by Bert Stern, and I have to read here, Aram Avakian, and it runs for 89 minutes. The documentary shows you the sort of the jazz festival from Newport in 1959, with some wonderful artists like Jim Joffrey, Louis Armstrong, Malaya Jackson, Gary Mulligan, and so forth. I'm going to read you the sort of the lineup later on. But I want to concentrate on the film for a second. If you haven't seen this documentary, you are in for a treat, a real ride. Because as I said in the beginning, this is iconic. This is a super important sort of historical piece when it comes to jazz, and it's shot beautifully. With this package you get the DVD version of it, and man, I wish it was the Blu-ray version, but doesn't matter really, because it's so beautiful shot. So DVD, VHS, Blu-ray or 4K, it's going to be a fantastic sort of experience anyway. But I urge everyone to, if you have the opportunity, watch a 4K version of this or the Blu-ray version of this, because it's a beautiful film. I remember when I first saw it back in the day, I was stunned of the picture quality of this. 1959, and it's shot just like a motion picture. Beautifully framed shots with standing on a tripod or in a handheld when it's needed. They mix scenes from the stage, obviously, with pictures from on the audience or just people in the streets of Newport. And it's wonderful. And I think that it's the filmmaker in this case made a really good decision by also blending scenes of boats from the sea. Talking about this in theory, I realized that it sounds bananas, but it complements the film photo fantastically, because just as the sea and with boats sailing on the sea, it's in one way like jazz, or jazz in this sort of time period in 1959, because if you can't navigate on the sea, it goes to hell pretty quickly, just like jazz. If you can't play, if you aren't up to the par with the other artists, this goes to shit pretty fast. But when you navigate, it's one of the most beautiful things imaginable. Just like watching a sailboat calmly riding the sea. So the symbolism of that sort of mix between jazz, the streets, and the sea is a perfect blend. So let's get into the lineup here, because everyone is holding their breath if you haven't seen the film. Who's playing on this? What can we expect? Well, the Jim Joffrey Trio starts it all off fantastically. You then go on to see the Thelonious Monk Trio, Sonny Stitt, Anita O'Day, Gary Mulligan, Chuck Berry is playing, and I have to say a fantastic sort of, Louis Armstrong and Malaya Jackson, and a couple of other people. But you even have Eric Dolphy playing flute with Chico Hamilton, and it's awesome to see Eric Dolphy. I don't know if there's much film material of Eric Dolphy, especially on flute. So we have talked about the CD, and we have talked about the DVD. So let's get into the records. Now, the audio part of this documentary is probably the thing that they have struggled with the most. I read some articles online that the tapes from this live take are deteriorating, and I have no idea what they took when they remastered the record or the CD, really. But in my opinion, sounds pretty good for what it is. And you can't underestimate the sort of the 10-inch format. It's a cool format, isn't it? So you get two of these babies with like 4 tracks on each side. It's flat vinyl, dead quiet, nothing to really complain about when it comes to that. And sound quality, as we said, is what it is. So moving on to the book, it's a nice little piece of material. I mean, 44 pages long, and most of it is stills from the movie, but you get a nice piece of paper. You have glossy sides. The only small critique I really have against the book is that it's a small font, it's black letters on dark blue background, and it's hard sometimes to really read in low light. But yeah, to sum this book up, I mean, the performances, that's the thing. I always, in my sort of reviews, I always talk about the content. If there's shit content, then what do you have? Even if it's a nice looking sort of book. And the content is obviously fantastic. My favorite performances from the documentary is probably the Gary Mulligan track. It's nice to see Gary Mulligan, and also Chico Hamilton. I have to give it to Chico Hamilton with Eric Dolphy on flute. It's a fantastic performance, and they do a song called Blue Sands, which I've totally forgot about. It's a fantastic song, so I'm gonna try to see if I can get the original LP. Obviously, I'm a huge Monk fan, so it's always nice to see Monk, even if he's not on his absolute sort of peak performing wise on this one, but he does a rendition of Blue Monk with his trio, and it sounds great. So surprisingly enough, I mean, Chuck Berry is on the bill, and Chuck Berry, 1959, he comes from that sort of the rock has bloomed, and I don't know if they want to attract a younger audience. I have no idea, but I have to say that the performance is fantastic. He's really enjoying himself. You can see that on the documentary and on stage, and the material that I've seen with Chuck Berry otherwise is pretty dull compared to this. He's really vital on this one, and adding a clarinet solo to Sweet 16, I think he plays, is a pretty neat sort of way of blending rock and the jazz. Maybe it's the first fusion attempt. I don't know. And obviously Louis Armstrong and Malaya Jackson at the end, signing the sort of the festival off, is, I mean, there are artists and there are artists, and they are just proving themselves to be one of the most entertaining and best musicians that have ever lived. It's fantastic to have this document and being able to watch it and listen to it. So the deluxe version of Jazz on a Summer's Day gets 2 thumbs up, 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10. I don't know how to really sum it up better. And as I said in the beginning, if you are interested in a book, it's still in print. It's released in 2018, I think, but it's still in print, so go down and follow the link if you want to buy one. Or see if they have one in your local record store. That's it. Hope you enjoyed this one. I enjoyed doing it. Blending my 3 favorite sort of hobbies was awesome. So I hope you have a great day. Please leave comments if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you in my next video.